Let's take a look at how our file system looks on our live DVD. If you have it handy, you might want to follow along. So let's just see if we see something like this, slash and slash user, and then all the subdirectories under user and bin, things like that. Actually, there's not much, I don't think, under bin or dev. Yeah, that is, you won't find subdirectories under these folders, but definitely under slash etc you will see many configuration files, and I think you will see many directories. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, so here we are back to our Linux system, and we haven't really talked about how to go around in the file system. I'll just show it to you, and then we'll talk about it in the, I think probably in this video or the next one. So one way to figure out where you are is to print the working directory. So pwd is the command for that. There are no options for pwd. So it tells me that I am in /home/uwrf. So that's uwrf is my name, I guess my username, and my home directory is in /home/uwrf. So when I say home directory, it doesn't mean /home. It usually means wherever you are in this file system. In this particular case, my home directory is /home/uwrf. That's where you get put it in when you log into this into the file system. Okay, so pwd, once again, there's no options. So actually, let's take a look at the man page for pwd. And here it is. Oops, there are options, I guess. I never use them. Alright, you don't need to worry about them. PW is one of those things that you usually use without any options. So I hit Q to get out of the man page. Okay, another command that you will need to get around in the file system says cd, and cd stands for change directory. This is also available under DOS or the command line in Windows. Okay, so if you say cd by itself, it doesn't do anything. It just puts you, cd by itself just puts you in your home directory. Okay, so let's go to a subdirectory. Let's say where we can go to. Remember, ls lists all the files, and remember that we talked about it very briefly. The ls -l tells you the long information, gives you a long listing, gives you more information. And it tells you these blue things are all directories. Notice the D at the very beginning of the line. L means link, and we haven't talked about those. So this XYZ file that we've been editing using VI has a minus sign instead of a D or an L. And a minus just means you have a regular file. So anything with a minus is a regular file. There's one more. Remember, in VI, when we were using VI, we wrote what we were editing to a backup file, just because we were not sure, and that is also a regular file. Okay, so what can you do with these things? You can cd into, for example, desktop. Your desktop is just a folder, and I'm sure you're familiar with this from Windows. And notice something changed over here when we changed the directory. We used to be in this tilde, and then as soon as we did cd/desktop, now we're in the desktop directory in the tilde directory. What is tilde? Tilde is just another way of saying home directory. So you can go back to your home directory a couple of different ways. You can say cd and then just hit return, or you can, anywhere you are in the file system, you can say cd and space and then tilde. That means take me back or change directory to the home directory. So watch this. I just said cd space tilde. I'm going to hit enter, and it takes me back to my home directory. So not all Unix systems will have the current directory as part of the prompt. So in this particular system, yes, that's what we have. We have name of the user, at, and this desktop system that I'm using right now is called UWRF, and it'll be the same for you too if you use a live CD. That computer is referred to as UWRF also, kind of confusing. And then this colon says, okay, in this system, you're currently in your home directory. Okay, so now let's do something a little bit more complicated. Let's just go to desktop again before we do the more complicated thing, and do an ls over here, so you get a completely different list of files in your desktop. And let's find out more information about this. Apparently these are just regular files. What are these RWX things? We will talk about that later, pretty soon. Okay, and then now we can cd to, let's just say cd return. Takes us back to our home directory, just like cd tilde does. Okay, now here's the more complicated thing. You can go directly to the root of the file system by doing this, cd space / and hit enter, and notice that our prompt now says, okay, you're in the root directory. So the / directory is also called the root directory. This is a little bit confusing, but if you do an ls over here, one of the things that you will see is root. Okay, so this is a little bit confusing if you see it in the beginning. So what it really says is there is a directory named root in /. So / or the root, which is also called the root directory, has a bunch of directories. And which ones are directories you can find out by saying ls -l. Oh, that went off the page, off the top of the page, so you no longer can see our command. Okay, here it is. Here's our command, ls -l. There were so many that it went off the top. Okay, so here are a bunch of directories. /bin is a directory, so is /boot. So this wasn't mentioned in the book, but on Linux systems you will see this. Often you will have a device driver for a CD-ROM or DVD. Since you're using a live DVD, chances are you'll have this. And sometimes you will see it right in the root directory. Sometimes you don't. You will see it in /dev or somewhere else. Okay, so there is a dev directory. It's a D, has a D for directory. There's also etc. There's home, and then there's home1 in this case, and every system is different. I don't know if we'll have to deal with home_1. Okay, let's slide down and look at some of the other directories that are in here. What are these things? These things have to do with Linux. This is the boot image for Linux. This is how Linux boots up. Let's not worry about it. Definitely don't delete it. You can't anyway. Even if you delete this, it's not a big deal. But if you have a Linux system installed on a hard drive, definitely do not delete these things. Okay. A couple of other things. Here's a lib directory, just like it was mentioned in the book. There's a lost and found for files that were recovered. For example, when you use a USB drive or another hard drive, they all go into, or they are all visible through /media, or sometimes on some systems under /mnt. And we'll talk about how different devices or media are mounted, and that's what these things are for. It's for mounting different file systems. Okay, there's an optional directory. /proc is a very important one for Linux. This is Linux specific. Actually, there are some other file systems with /proc, but Linux is one of the famous ones that have /proc. We'll get to this at the end of this semester, I believe. And There's our root directory, as we mentioned. There's sbin and some other things. Here's user. So let's take a look in user. We can cd into user. So any directory that's mentioned in our current list of directories, let me back up. Here's our current list of directories. Anything that's mentioned here you can cd into if you have the right permissions. So you can cd into user. Alright, so notice you're in /user. You can ls. There's a bunch of files in here. So this means that, for example, so here is a bin directory. This is inside the user directory. There is also a bin directory, if you remember, in /. So there's a /bin, that's a binary file, binary directory, list of binaries in the root directory, and there's one in user as well. So you can cd into here. So those are completely different directories. This bin directory is completely different from /bin. So if I cd to the bin directory here, I'm in /user/bin. They're completely different. The fact that they have the same name doesn't really mean anything. Okay, so if you look in here, there's a bunch of files, and I think one of them might actually be one that we've used. I think vi might be in here. So there's a lot of files. These are all binary files. These are executable files. Let's see, did you see it? Oh, here it is. There is our vi. So once again, let's find out where we are. I'm just going to type in pwd print working directory. I'm in /user/bin, and there is a vi in /user/bin. That's where vi lives. Okay, so you can go ahead and do this kind of things. Use cd to root. For example, do an ls cd. Try cding into a place where you're not supposed to be able to go. For example, root. I don't know if you can go into there. You can. Right, you can list directories. Okay, so you can cd into it, but you cannot actually see what's in there. Here's a case where root is owned by the super user, and we will talk about that later. And root is the home directory of the super user, and so you as a regular user are not allowed to look inside that directory. Although looks like you're able to cd into it, you cannot actually see what's in it. So I'm going to cd back to the root directory, do another ls, pick some other places that you want to try to look at, and go in there and just try to explore and see how directories are set up. Okay.